Hey everyone, time for another 3 at 3 on solar PV. I'm Jen Runyon, Chief Editor of Renewable Energy World.
I'm Paula Mintz, Chief Market Research Analyst, SPV Market Research. Hi, Jen.
Hey Paula, it's been a while, and I am so pleased to announce that 3 at 3 on solar PV has its first sponsor. We are very pleased to welcome the Interstate Renewable Energy Council as our first sponsor.
Thank you, and yes, woohoo!
Yeah, absolutely. Better known as IREC. All right, so 3 at 3 on solar PV, we take 3 topics. We talk about them for about 3 minutes each. And today, we're basically going to focus on one topic, but it has a lot of spokes. And it's this: refuting the claim that when people go solar, everyone else's bills increase. And this came from an article that Paula saw recently. This guy had said he did some back of the envelope calculations, and he said, if you're paying less for electricity, then I must be paying more because the utilities still have these fixed costs that they have to cover. And that's simply not true. I mean, so, I did a little digging here in New Hampshire. I don't have solar. I hope to one day. But how it works, because we're a deregulated market, when people go solar, all the solar energy reduces the amount of energy that the distributed utilities have to purchase for all of us. So that lowers the level that ratepayers share of the regional transmission costs. So it really actually lowers everybody else's bill. That's one thing.
So it's true that, though it is true that the utilities have fixed costs they have to cover.
Yes.
The old saw that when I put solar on my house, that means everybody else is paying for my solar because I'm being paid back for the electricity net metering that I'm generating. Exactly what you're saying. It just does not prove out, and you need to do more than a back of an envelope analysis to get. If you actually did the analysis, you would realize right away that is not true. I think part of the misunderstanding is we're in the middle, despite what the current administration thinks, of a switch, a change in the way we source our electricity. And so that's going to be expensive to build the infrastructure. We're building new infrastructure. But overall and over time, costs as the system changes will go down.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so quick word about IREC. IREC increases access to sustainable energy and energy efficiency through independent fact-based policy leadership, quality workforce development, and consumer empowerment. Through its work in nearly every state, IREC's customer focus has made clean energy possible for millions more Americans by removing regulatory barriers since 1982. And that's basically what we're talking about here, these regulatory issues. So,
yeah, and honestly, as you and I both know, that's true about IREC. And I've admired the organization for a long time. I don't do commercials, but I do always am supportive of organizations such as IREC who do such good work.
Yeah, I do. I actually remember seeing a presentation given by one of their lawyers on all of the net metering battles that were happening across the United States. And so, and that's the second thing that people say that they use to talk about how solar is costing everybody else more money. They say it's not fair, net metering rates, because they're at the retail rate, it doesn't make sense that utilities have to buy power at retail rate when they buy power from other places at the wholesale rate. So,
well, as you know, the system is set up fairly unfairly, state by state by state, so it's not always at retail rate. Sometimes it's at avoided cost, and the avoided cost calculation differs, as I've written about in the Solar Flare and on REW. It differs state to state to state. It is not a fair calculation. I'll just bluntly say that.
Yeah.
But the other thing that I would say is, if I'm selling you my refrigerator, I have a right to get paid for it, what I want to get paid for it. I'm generating electricity that I am selling. Why is the calculation of I've always said this is a commercial situation here. I own a system. I'm selling electricity to the utility.
Yeah, absolutely. No, absolutely. And again, in here in New England, in this deregulated market, we're all independent power producer. That's where all power comes from. So if I'm selling solar at a retail rate, that's putting downward pressure on all the retail rates out there.
That is very true. If you're going to have an open market, which, honestly, completely free markets simply do not exist.
I know.
And I've written about it, we've talked about it. But if you use the philosophy that you want a free market, if you're a free marketer, economist, theory person, then you're saying that's exactly right. If in a perfectly free market, competition in theory drives prices down, the problem is there are no free markets.
Exactly. Yes. And it's very, very complicated. And again, I was just at the Intersolar conference in New York this week, and one presenter made the point, which is 100% true, and we've said it before, doing business in the United States is like doing business in 50 different countries. Every state has its own rules. It's different everywhere you go. It's very complicated. So these broad generalizations about solar is costing everybody money are just completely ridiculous.
Absurd. Yeah.
But here's the last thing they say, and then this will be our last topic for today. So they say that people with high incomes go solar more frequently than people with lower incomes. So therefore, there's even worse pressure on people with lower incomes, because not only do they now have to pay higher for their electricity, and people with high incomes get out of their electricity bill.
Well, if I could just interject, if you recall, a couple of years ago, I did the big consumer study. It was so it's about 3 years ago now. And that was when the solar lease was like booming. Now it's waning for very good reasons. That's a completely different topic. However, in this population of 900 people across the United States, state by state by state, the preponderance of people who chose to lease, which they assume and their reason was that it was the cheapest way to go, they thought they were getting free solar, were the people with high incomes. And the preponderance of people who bought a solar system were middle to lower middle income, believe it or not.
Wow.
Obviously homeowners, but they, and by the way, education ranged from high school to some college to college educated for those who bought systems. So that's not necessarily true on the homeowning front. And I think we just talked about it. So you had some other
absolutely points. Yeah. I mean, so it's also true that that many states have higher incentives for people with low income to go solar. They have much better subsidies, very much in the same way that they incentivize developers to go build low income housing. There's better tax breaks that are available for community solar that's designed for low income. I mean, there's really plenty of solar to go around for all, and it is just patently not true that people with higher incomes
There is a real trend towards the community solar virtual net metering model, which is another, we could do a whole 3-on-3 on that. And also programs that, I know in California, when new homes are built specifically for low-income housing, often they are built to include solar.
Yeah.
So it's just factually untrue. Get the back of the envelope analysis out of the equation here. Sorry to be punny in an analyst way, and really do the analysis, because if someone does, it doesn't hold up.
Exactly, it doesn't. I mean, and we haven't even touched on the fact that when you're producing solar and consuming it on, very locally, there's less wear and tear on the grid. There's less grid maintenance that's needed. I mean, there's a whole lot of other factors that prove that solar is really actually helping the grid overall and lowering costs for everybody.
Absolutely, it's a future. The future, I've always said I'd love to see a future of IPPs and DGs. It's an IPP DG future, to throw a few acronyms out there.
Absolutely. Well, that's all the time we have for today, but we definitely want to thank our sponsor, IREC. IREC, thank you so much. And thank you so much, IREC. And next week, we have a really great show where we're going to talk about pricing, because Paula has her new pricing report out, or her new report.
It's manufacturer shipments, which is capacity, production, shipments, and price. So how it all works together through the system. But we're going to do a special 3-on-3 about it. Cool.
Yeah, very excited. So, Paula, what's the number? How much total solar do we have right now in the world?
Well, some of it has been uninstalled, and this is into all applications, including the very tiniest in your watch,
Okay.
But cumulative shipped in since, say, the early 1972, close to 380 gigawatts. It's
Wow.
amazing. It's an amazing,
380 gigawatts of solar.
most of it, honestly, in the last 10 years.
Yeah.
It's just an amazing feat.
Yeah. All right. Well, stay tuned for our show next week where we're going to get deeper into Paula's shipment report and really kind of look at those numbers, which will be really fascinating. And thanks so much for joining us today on 3 at 3 on Solar PV. Bye.